Imagine a world where one nation controls the seas, the wealth, and the destiny of entire continents. A superpower so rich, its coffers overflowed with gold and silver. A kingdom so vast, its flag flew across the Americas, Africa, Asia, and Europe. This wasn't the United States. This wasn't even Britain. This was Spain in the 1500s. And just like today's superpowers, Spain had secrets. Secrets of strategy, faith, money, and military might that turn a once-divided land into the first true global empire. Tonight, on USA Uncovered, we journey back 500 years to reveal the secrets behind Spain's power in the 1500s and why it all came crashing down. To understand Spain's meteoric rise, we must first look at what it was before power consumed it. In the early 1400s, the Iberian Peninsula, today's Spain and Portugal, was not one country, but a patchwork of kingdoms. Castile, Aragon, Navarre, and the Muslim kingdom of Granada coexisted, often uneasily. For centuries, Christian and Muslim forces fought a long war known as the Reconquista. By 1492, that war finally ended. The Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand of Aragon and Isabella of Castile, captured Granada, the last Muslim stronghold. This victory was more than just military. It united Spain under a single Catholic crown, with the Church blessing the new power. 1492 was also the year another event shook the world. A Genoese sailor, backed by Spain, set sail west in search of Asia. His name was Christopher Columbus. Spain, once divided, now stood at the dawn of an empire. The Catholic monarchs took a gamble when they funded Columbus. No one knew if his voyage would succeed. But when he reached the islands of the Caribbean, Spain struck gold, quite literally. The discovery of the New World was like handing Spain the keys to a treasure chest that had never been opened. Islands in the Caribbean, vast lands in Central and South America, all of it now lay open to Spanish conquest. Soon after, conquistadors followed. Hernán Cortés crushed the mighty Aztec Empire in Mexico. Francisco Pizarro toppled the Incas in Peru. With just a few hundred men, Spain dismantled civilizations millions strong, using steel, gunpowder, horses, and the diseases that devastated native populations. But conquest was only the beginning. The real secret of Spain's power was the endless flow of resources. Silver from the mines of Potosí, gold from Mexico, sugar, spices, and exotic goods from across the seas. Ships laden with treasure sailed into Spanish ports, filling royal vaults and funding armies, palaces, and cathedrals. By the mid-1500s, Spain wasn't just a European kingdom. It was a global empire, the first of its kind. If power was a fire, then silver was the fuel that kept Spain burning bright. By the mid-1500s, Spain controlled some of the richest lands ever discovered. In the Andes Mountains of modern-day Bolivia lay the Cerro Rico, the rich mountain, a place so full of silver that it seemed almost endless. The mines of Potosí became legendary. Tens of thousands of indigenous workers and later enslaved Africans were forced into brutal labor. The conditions were deadly, but the silver that poured from those mines was staggering. It's estimated that over 60% of the world's silver in the 16th century came from Spanish America. This wealth didn't stay hidden in the mountains. It was loaded onto ships, guarded by Spanish galleons, and sent across the Atlantic in treasure fleets. These convoys carried unimaginable riches, coins, bullion, and exotic goods, to the ports of Seville and Cadiz. With this wealth, Spain built armies, funded palaces, and secured its dominance over Europe. The Spanish real, a silver coin, became the first truly global currency, accepted from Europe to Asia. But there was a hidden cost. The flood of silver caused massive inflation across Europe. Prices rose, economies struggled, and Spain itself became dangerously dependent on foreign merchants and bankers. For now, however, Spain was unstoppable. And its power was guarded by something else, the mightiest navy the world had ever seen. Spain's empire was built on more than just gold and silver. It was defended by steel, gunpowder, and sheer force. The Spanish army of the 1500s was one of the most disciplined in Europe. The famous tercios, units of pikemen and musketeers, revolutionized battlefield tactics. Their combination of long spears, firearms, and tight formations made them nearly unbeatable for decades. But Spain's true symbol of power was its navy. Massive warships, called galleons, became floating fortresses. They protected the treasure fleets crossing the Atlantic, and they enforced Spain's will on the high seas. Nowhere was this power more evident than in the conflict with England. In 1588, King Philip II of Spain launched the Spanish Armada, a fleet of over 130 ships, to invade England and crush Protestant resistance. It was meant to be the ultimate display of Spanish power. But storms, English tactics, and perhaps fate itself turned it into disaster. The Armada was scattered and destroyed. Still, the fact that Spain could assemble such a massive fleet showed the scale of its dominance. Even in defeat, the Spanish Armada symbolized the reach and ambition of Spain's empire. From the silver mines of the Andes to the battlefields of Europe and the stormy seas of the English Channel, Spain had proven that wealth and military power together could create and protect a global superpower. But another force, one far more spiritual and ideological, also fueled Spain's rise. Spain's strength was not just measured in silver or steel. It was also rooted in faith. The 1500s were an age of religious conflict. Protestantism was spreading across northern Europe, challenging the authority of the Catholic Church. But Spain, united under Ferdinand and Isabella, stood as Catholicism's most loyal defender. The Spanish crown and the Catholic Church became inseparable. Priests and missionaries sailed alongside conquistadors. Conversions were as important as conquests. Indigenous populations were baptized by the millions, often by force. The Spanish Inquisition, established in 1478, grew into a powerful weapon. Its mission: to enforce religious unity. Jews and Muslims were expelled or forced to convert. Suspected heretics faced trials, torture, and executions. It was brutal, but it created a state where Catholic faith and Spanish identity were one and the same. This close alliance with Rome brought Spain prestige. Popes granted Spain authority over vast overseas territories. The Church sanctified conquest, declaring that spreading Christianity was as important as controlling land and treasure. To many in Europe, Spain wasn't just another kingdom. It was the champion of Catholicism, a divine power with a mission blessed by God Himself. Spain's empire wasn't confined to Europe or even the Americas. By the mid-1500s, it stretched across the globe, truly earning the title of a world empire. In the New World, Spain's colonies stretched from Mexico to Peru, from the Caribbean to the far reaches of Chile and Argentina. Vast territories were governed by viceroys, ruling in the name of the Spanish king. But Spain also pushed into Asia. After Ferdinand Magellan's voyage circumnavigated the globe in 1522, Spain claimed the Philippines, named after King Philip II. Manila became the hub of a new global trade network, the Manila Galleons. Every year, massive Spanish ships sailed from Manila to Acapulco in Mexico, carrying silk, porcelain, spices, and exotic goods from Asia. From Mexico, those treasures traveled across the Atlantic to Spain, fueling European markets. For the first time in history, trade linked Europe, the Americas, and Asia in one continuous loop. Silver mined in Peru bought goods in China. Asian silk dressed nobles in Madrid. Sugar from the Caribbean sweetened tables in Seville. Spain had achieved what no other power had done before. It had created the first truly global empire. And yet, behind this grandeur, cracks were already beginning to form. While wealth flowed in, problems at home and abroad were quietly growing. But before Spain's decline, its empire would shine in a golden age unlike any the world had ever seen. Empires are not only remembered for their armies or their wealth. They are remembered for their culture, the ideas and creations they leave behind. For Spain, the 1500s and early 1600s became what historians call El Siglo de Oro, the Spanish Golden Age. Fueled by the endless riches of its empire, Spain invested in art, architecture, literature, and science. Cathedrals rose higher than ever before, with Seville's grand cathedral symbolizing the wealth of the New World. Artists like El Greco and Diego Velázquez transformed European painting with bold colors, religious passion, and a sense of grandeur that matched Spain's empire. Writers like Miguel de Cervantes gave the world Don Quixote, often called the first modern novel, a story that still resonates today. Music, philosophy, and even advances in navigation flourished under royal patronage. The empire's success gave rise to a confidence, a belief that Spain was not only rich and powerful, but also chosen to lead the world culturally and spiritually. This was more than just art for art's sake. Culture became a tool of power. Spanish architecture, literature, and faith spread across continents, leaving an imprint that survives from Mexico City to Manila. But behind this cultural brilliance were deeper strategies, the true secrets of how Spain rose to power so quickly and dominated the world. So, what were the secrets behind Spain's rapid ascent to global dominance? The first was unification. After centuries of division, the marriage of Ferdinand and Isabella united Castile and Aragon, creating a centralized kingdom. This unity allowed Spain to project power outward while keeping order at home. The second secret was alliance with the Church. By positioning itself as the sword and shield of Catholicism, Spain gained legitimacy and the moral justification for conquest. Religion was used not only to expand power but also to enforce loyalty and suppress dissent. The third was control of wealth. Unlike other European states, Spain had direct access to the New World's silver and gold. This steady stream of resources financed armies, navies, and a bureaucracy capable of managing vast overseas territories. The fourth was military innovation. The Spanish tercios were unmatched in discipline and tactics, while their galleons dominated global trade routes. Spain was not just wealthy, it was militarily formidable. And finally, global vision. Spain didn't limit itself to Europe. It created a network of colonies and trade routes that spanned the globe, from Mexico to the Philippines, from the Caribbean to the Mediterranean. Together, these secrets created a power unlike anything the world had seen. But as history shows, no empire lasts forever. Even as Spain reached the height of its glory, forces were already gathering that would bring the mighty empire to its knees. Every empire believes it will last forever. But history teaches us that power is always fragile. For Spain, decline began even as its empire shined at its brightest. The very wealth that had made Spain rich also became its greatest weakness. The endless flow of silver caused prices across Europe to soar. Inflation eroded the value of Spain's riches. Instead of investing in industry or innovation, Spain relied almost entirely on its treasure fleets. Meanwhile, costly wars drained the empire's resources. Spain fought to suppress the Dutch revolt in the Netherlands, clashed with the Ottoman Turks in the Mediterranean, and faced a rising Protestant England across the seas. The defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 was more than a military setback. It was a symbol, the moment Spain's invincibility was shattered. English and Dutch privateers began raiding Spanish treasure ships. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. At home, corruption and a rigid class system stifled progress. Nobles lived off wealth from the Americas, while ordinary Spaniards bore heavy taxes. Spain was rich in silver, but poor in stability. By the early 1600s, the cracks had widened. What had been the greatest empire on earth was now entering a long decline. But though Spain's power waned, its influence had already been carved deep into the story of our world. 5 centuries later, the echoes of Spain's 1500s power still surround us. Across Latin America, cities built by Spanish conquistadors stand tall, from Mexico City to Lima, Bogotá to Buenos Aires. In Asia, the Philippines still carries the legacy of Spanish rule, its very name a reminder of King Philip. Perhaps Spain's greatest legacy is language. Today, more than 500 million people around the world speak Spanish, making it the second most spoken native language on Earth. Every word spoken is a living echo of the empire's reach. The Catholic faith also spread globally under Spain's banner. Churches, traditions, and festivals from Mexico to the Pacific Islands remain rooted in that era of expansion. Spain also shaped the modern global economy. The silver real, minted from the mines of Potosí, became the world's first truly global currency, linking Europe, Asia, and the Americas in trade networks that still resemble today's global markets. But perhaps the greatest lesson lies in Spain's fall. Wealth and military might alone cannot secure eternal power. Empires rise, but they also collapse when corruption, overextension, and resistance catch up. Modern superpowers, including the United States, would do well to remember Spain's story. Because history does not repeat itself exactly, but it often rhymes. In the 1500s, Spain ruled as the world's first superpower. Its secrets were faith, silver, soldiers, and vision. Its legacy lives on in languages, cultures, and nations across the globe. But Spain's rise and fall also reminds us of a timeless truth. Power is never permanent. The same forces that build empires can, in time, destroy them. This was the story of Spain, the empire that conquered oceans, reshaped continents, and left behind a world forever changed. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of history, power, and the world we live in today.